and welcome to the podcast where three friends discuss environmental policies from around the planet.
Hey guys, this is Ajwah and I'm joined here with Ala.
Hey!
And we are back with our second break extra policy. Today, we are going to be talking about the fracking ban that we saw in New York State. Now, Ala, you know why I came up with this, right?
Because you're in New York State right now?
Yes, of course I am. But I'm also in one of the two towns that actually played such a pivotal role in banning fracking. And this is a big deal, right? Because taking up oil companies, it's not a thing that just anybody can do.
Yeah.
But I'm here in this small town called Dryden, and they actually made such a big impact on the way that fracking is going to be looked at in this country, especially this state, but the impact of small towns that they have on taking up big oil companies. So the story behind Dryden is that they were like this big oil company, right? Anschutz Exploration Corp. So they basically tried to go up against Dryden because it's this really also cool video on YouTube that we will share on our social media about this town. And they had people just say, oh, you know what? You are sitting on these great natural gas reserves and, you know, like you guys are going to make money. So if you just like hand over your... they didn't even really have to hand over their land. They just had to like allow exploration on their land. And people are like, oh yeah, sure. They didn't tell them any of the environmental impacts, nothing. And so a few people signed it without knowing what it was. And then a few people like, wait, hold on. Isn't fracking like supposed to be really bad? Because for a small town, by the way, this town is actually very highly educated. I think a reason is because it's so close to Cornell, and a lot of people that are around in this town are either graduates of Cornell or they are affiliated to Cornell in one way or another.
Liberal elitism? Oh my God.
And so basically, these people were like, what do you mean? It's not just gonna be you just fracking, like, oh, it's just, you're not even gonna find out. You're gonna see it in our water. We're gonna have all these emissions, and like, it's not just a small deal. What are you talking about? So the town was like, no, we're not gonna do this. And so obviously, because a few people had already signed it without knowing what they were signing up for, they sued the town, right? And this is like this multi-billion-dollar company. And they sued this company. And the district court here was like, no. So they sided with the town, which is a big deal, right? But nobody thought that it would hold because it's a small town and the small district court is holding up to it. Fine, whatever. So they went up to 3 rounds of courts and they won against them. So much so that this multi-billion-dollar company had to actually file for bankruptcy.
Damn.
Yeah, and eventually it actually led to a statewide ban in 2014 when Cuomo signed it that you cannot just ban wherever the fuck you want to.
Wait, it's a statewide ban on fracking?
Yeah, New York State completely banned fracking.
So I know that, earlier this year, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, all 4 of them, since they're in that huge, there's a big watershed around there. Like it's one big watershed. And I think they all permanently ban fracking. And they made it, they all made it permanent this year. That's interesting.
Yeah, New York City did it in 2014. Again, like I said, because of these 2 towns.
This is interesting to me I knew that there was some sort of ban in New York. I did not know it was a statewide ban. But I just remembered, the news that Cuomo made that ban permanent in March. And it's just now that it's clicking with me that it's statewide, I guess, when you said that. And now it's like these 4 states. You know what? I don't think that permanent ban is going to hold.
I think it might because, like, you know, even with Biden moving towards, like, all these people just moving towards climate activism or just, like, at least on paper trying to be good.
Yes, but the issue is, like, you have to think about what fracking represents for America. Around,
Yeah.
like, fracking became more popular, like, maybe late 90s, 2000, or it started picking up, right? So at that point, America was still very beholden to foreign energy and oil. Today, America is the largest producer of fossil fuels in the world, and most of that produce comes from fracking and what they get in natural gas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why they have the Midwest.
Yeah, so I'm saying that financial independence, and Pennsylvania is key to supplying energy resources to these 4 states. But this is why I don't think that ban will hold, making it permanent. Making it a permanent ban is something that I feel, based on the way we have things regulated. This is why we need a federal regulation for oil and gas industries, but we don't have one clear-cut federal regulation for them, because things like this will happen. I just don't think it'll hold, because you have to think about, Pennsylvania used to have a lot of coal, okay, and now it's replaced by natural gas. You have to think about the jobs. You have to think about gas prices. You have to think about, again, like I said, financial independence as an oil country now. I just don't see it holding, because Pennsylvania and Delaware are involved, and those countries, that state, Pennsylvania, supplies a ton of the energy that the surrounding states get. Maybe if they weren't in there. So if you check through the regulations that we have for environmental things, there's no clear-cut regulation on oil and fossil fuel industry. Like, basically, there are like 8 or 9 different types of regulations that can apply, right? There's things you can pull from different federal regulations that apply to these industries, but there's no one particular thing governing them. It's really up to states. The chemical disclosure of what you put in the mixture for fracking is up to states. Where you're located is up to states.
And I think it should stay with the states, personally.
But I'm saying, because it stays with the states is why I don't see things changing as far as fracking in the long term. You understand, like, a lot of the state economy, right, relies on these fracking things for a lot of different states. And let's say you even say, okay, we're going to pass this legislature, fuck it. The next term, when people are doing elections, they're going to be like, they're not going to think, oh, you saved my water and everything, especially because there aren't enough health studies to confirm or deny what fracking can or cannot cause, unfortunately. So these people can be like, well, you don't have any definitive proof, and here you are taking away my jobs and shit and my livelihood. That's why I'm saying I don't think, like, I think this is great.
I thought there were actually enough studies.
There are not. That's actually one of the biggest problems with fracking. There aren't enough confirmed studies on exactly what fracking can lead to health-wise. So I think there's been a few studies, and there was a groundbreaking one in 2016 that was done by some geochemists at Columbia University that found chemical changes in drinking water near fracking sites. But that one study, that study doesn't prove that there's contamination from the fracking. It shows correlation, not causation. And there haven't been enough studies to show causation in groundwater. Or if you look at the fact that, okay, people will say, what about the air and toxicity? True. Great argument. Except the thing that we had before natural gas and fracking was coal. And technically, if you're comparing the numbers to coal, then the air is way cleaner than it used to be. So you see what I'm saying? So, like, if we really want to change these things, that's why I'm saying there needs to be more studies, more federally funded studies, and there needs to be actual federal oversight and regulation. It's not like they have to issue a ban, but things like this, especially since it's state by state, and every state, whoever comes in 4 years, right, is going to have a different outlook. And it's going to be more political than it's going to be environmental. And like I said, America is now the largest producer of oil. Gas prices, I mean, they're climbing now because of confidence in the economy. But the gas prices that we have here, we would not have without fracking. It all comes down to, like, people's livelihood and all these type of things.
Girl, you know me. I'm very into, like, the Switzerland cantonal system, and, like, okay, people who live there should be able to fucking decide what they want to do for themselves, right?
That's how America is run, and that's why we have these problems. But let me ask you a question, right? Do you think that the EPA should set minimum water standards? We agree that they should, right? The EPA should set minimum water standards. The Clean Air Act revolutionized the country. The Clean Water Act made our waterways safer. Thanks to RCRA, there's less dumping of hazardous waste. Thanks to CERCLA, we have you guys can look up all these things. We have Superfund sites. We have areas that are getting cleaned. So all that stuff is federal. And it's not like states did not have the chance or the laws to do that. When it's something that impacts the entire country to this degree, and when it's something that is, changes the nature of the economics, you have to have some federal oversight. Like we were just talking about the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is federal.
Correct.
But those standards don't cover everything that comes as a result of fracking. That's what I'm saying. And not to mention the chemicals you use in fracking, every company will have a different one, and there's no law that makes them disclose it. So what are they setting their standards to if nobody knows what's in there?
That's true. I guess like there can be a basic standard for how, not that whether or not you can do fracking, but more so of how you are doing this fracking.
That's my point. There has to be regulations that govern it, how you can do it, what are required, things that are tailored towards not just fracking, but fossil fuels. That's why we continue to have the problems that we have. Like, okay, you do car emissions, but what about stat gas emissions? Oh, now we have another thing. And instead, just give this industry its own regulation set. Just give it its own thing. But anyway, I know like a lot of people disagree with me on this. And usually I'm all for like state things. I just think that state things should come from a springboard. So anyway, guys, this was a great conversation. Ajwah, thank you for this topic. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think you're right. This was actually a great conversation. And guys, do check out, we will post it, but do check out this YouTube video. The reason why I say this, because it was actually 2 women who stood up to a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That, I'm always supporting that.
Yep. So today, I know it's just extra policy, but there's a blog. I really love what this guy does. And actually, this is another great place for you to learn. I know we talked a lot about the impacts of fracking, but we didn't necessarily talk about how fracking works. And in our full episodes, we do give you guys some science and technology to go with the policy, but today not so much. So this blog, it's called Conserve Energy Future. So it's conserveenergyfuture.com, and this guy, Rinkesh Kugreja, he talks about all the ways we can conserve energy. He talks about like topics that come up in the environmental sectors a lot, and he looks at different sides of the discussion. I mean, I love this website a lot. It's a great blog. You can also learn more about fracking from them. And also tell us, like, what do you think about fracking? Do you feel like the costs outweigh the benefits? And also, do you feel that states alone should be left to legislate this issue, or should there be some more federal oversight? Thank you for joining us for this Planet Policy Pals extra policy discussion. We're going to bring you more of these until our break ends and Series 2 begins on June 7th. Follow us on Twitter, Planet Policy Pal, Instagram, Planet Policy Pals, and like our Facebook page. We are still on break, but if you guys message or leave a comment on socials, we will respond. Join us again next time, and until then, keep learning, pals.